Hello, my name is Brittawnée. I'm a guide with New Orleans Secrets Tours, and this is Jimmy. I am sitting here in my kitchen in the Brittawnée neighborhood, and I'm just finishing up my first cup of Café du Monde chicory coffee here today. One of the routines that I've been sticking to is waking up and first thing making coffee just as usual, with the occasional pick-me-up in the afternoon as well. So I thought I would give you a little bit of an overview of the history of coffee in New Orleans, because of course this style of coffee with chicory in it and just coffee in general is one of the commodities that makes New Orleans so unique. So to go back to the beginning, we were founded as a port city in 1718, and it's thought even as early just a couple years later in 1720, that's when the earliest coffee began to arrive from Cuba and the Caribbean and later South America. So by the 19th century, we were the second largest port in the world, and as early as the 1840s, we were the second largest importer of coffee in the country next to New York. The style of drinking coffee with chicory in it, however, did not come about until the Civil War in 1862, and that was because under Union occupation, it was basically a trade embargo. There was nothing coming into the port, and there was certainly nothing leaving the port, and so coffee came to be quite scarce. And in order to stretch the supply that we had, they started cutting it with chicory. So chicory itself is actually a perennial herbaceous root in the dandelion family, which is cousin to bitter endive lettuce. And of course, we also took to doing that in other times of economic crisis, such as the Great Depression, but New Orleans sort of adopted it as a tradition. And it's one of the historical flavors that we most associate with the culture here today. And it's still the most common way that we like to enjoy our coffee here today. So nowadays, the port is still thriving. Most of the country's coffee does come through the port of New Orleans, and we have some of the world's largest silos here. So in 2015, over 250,000 tons of coffee came into the port, which makes for about 20 billion cups of coffee. I thought I had a coffee addiction. Turns out I'm not alone. Most of the wholesale roasting of coffee takes place here as well. There are 14 warehouses and 6 roasting facilities within a 20-mile radius here. And I gotta say, depending on where you are in town, if the wind is blowing just right, you can smell it, and it's incredible. Now that may sound like a lot. Many other smaller roasting facilities have opened here in more recent years. 2 of my favorites being French Truck Coffee and Hay Coffee Roasting, Hay Cafe. French Truck, they have this amazing Nola iced coffee, which is basically cold brew with chicory coffee in it. It's incredible. And Hay Cafe is actually, I think, the smallest independent roasting facility here in town as well. They call it a nano roaster. Both of those places, by the way, they partner with local breweries at times to create coffee-flavored beer as well. There are a few other ways that we like to enjoy our coffee here, one of them being Café Brûlot, which is a slightly sweet, boozy, warming drink that is lit on fire. That was invented at Antoine's in the 1890s, and you can learn about that in another video of ours. And another one that maybe is a little bit lesser known is Vietnamese style of coffee. So there's a large Vietnamese population here that started arriving just after the war in Vietnam in 1975, and it's estimated over or up to about 16,000 of them settled here. So the Vietnamese also have a history of French colonization, and I think possibly their palate developed in a similar sense. So they actually use dark Robusta beans to make their Vietnamese style coffee, and the flavor profile is very similar to Café du Monde. So around here, that is the preferred coffee to use when making Vietnamese coffee, which has sweet condensed milk in it as well. And I've seen it in other places in the country too, in New York and in LA. So I'm gonna leave it right there for now. This is part 1 of a 2-part video series on the history of coffee. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, where I will be talking a little bit about the history of Café du Monde and one of my very favorite historical figures here in New Orleans, Rose Nico. So, cheers.
Strutting with some barbecue, swinging with the band. Strutting with some barbecue, fried chicken and ham. I can do the tram. trombone and the trumpet ad lib. I wanna hear the bass thump when I'm picking on a hot, juicy rib. Squad with some barbecue, feeling mighty grand. That's another helping, please, of that Fritzl's House Jazz Band. Another rib or two, I don't mind